All right, welcome to another episode of the Park Hopper Show. And with me today is my special guest, Melanie Ginzburg, Ginsburg Getaways on Instagram. And I came across her through one of the various Disney follower events that they seem to really, in the Disney community on Instagram, they like to promote so you can meet other like minded people. And she is one of the people that I started following through there. And she's a lot of fun from what I've seen. And hopefully, through the patience of setting this interview up in this last 15 minutes of getting Zoom to work, she seems to be a delightful person. So I can't wait to hear more and for you to find out more about her. So, Melanie, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Melanie Ginzburg. I currently live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm originally from South Carolina, so close by. I full-time am a pharmacist, actually. Most people don't know that about me. So that's a little fun fact. I have grown up being a Disney lover. So I actually jumped into being a Disney travel agent about 5 years ago. So that's a little fun side gig that I do now. But I am a new annual pass holder. I joined the annual pass holder community 6 months ago, 7 months ago
Oh,
now.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So now that's a new addiction of mine. It just gives me more of a reason to go to the parks. So I've been almost every month this year, which, if you ask my husband, is a problem. But for me,
Well,
just gives me it's paying for itself. That's
yeah.
what it's girl math.
Nobody asked your husband. It's fine. Enjoy yourself. What are you talking
That's
about?
right. That's right.
Well, so you grew up a Disney person, or
Yes.
okay?
My first
Well,
trip was when I was 5
oh,
with
nice.
the birthday cake castle.
Oh,
Everybody's favorite.
oh no! When you were 5,
Yeah.
oh, I'm so old. I remember that. I have. Well, this is my wall of like this is my office downstairs, and this is all of my junk from my childhood. I don't have new
Yeah.
things. I only have old things, and there's pictures on film of that castle because was that 90? What year is that castle?
96-ish.
It was there for like a year and a half, right? So we
Yeah.
went, and yeah, so I would have been in middle school then. So,
Nice.
eh,
Yeah. I mean, I wish I
nice,
remember it more than just pictures. Um, Now it's like, nostalgic for me, but
right?
I'm always like, how much do I actually remember from the trip versus how many things do I actually remember from like stories and pictures that I have?
Well, you probably have a little bit of core memory somewhere down there that really.
Yeah,
I
for
have
sure.
a ticket from the first time that I went that I found in a box of old things, and I was 4, and it was a 4-day pass, and the last pass hasn't been stamped, but it was still I used a rubber stamper for the dates because
Hmm.
I'm 1,000 years old, and I'm tempted when everybody online is always like these tickets say good forever, and they go and they,
Hmm.
but it was a 4-day pass for $40, so that's how old
Yeah, we
that's.
have a scrapbook from my first trip, and my mom kept the tickets, which I think they were like torn, but they also had the rubber stamps on them. And yeah, we have like I think we just did Magic Kingdom and then MGM at the time.
Oh yeah,
And so my mom
MGM.
has the tickets in there from that.
Well, we only did Epcot because that's all they had the first time I was there.
Nice.
Magic Kingdom and Epcot because, well, so there's two reasons I think, or the two reasons that you stand out, and this is what I think people need to do more of social media. But so we started following all these accounts when they have those meetups, and I think a lot of it's fun to look at because there's so much terrible stuff on Instagram and in the
For
world.
sure.
And I have my separate Disney account that I just go to, and it's, oh, this is nice. You don't have to see all the ugliness. So I think though to use this to get more vacations sold, you either have to make people want to go by what you post, or make people want to hang out with you as your travel agent. And I think that's how you really stood out. I was like, this. I know she doesn't know me, but I think she gets me because she's very similar in a lot of these things, and your personality really shows on there. And we're going to talk some more about that. But if we could start out with some travel agent stuff because you have been to the new Tiana's, is that correct?
Yes, just went last week.
And thoughts on that?
So, people might be surprised, but I have actually never ridden Splash Mountain. Um,
Oh,
I am a big wimp when it comes to drops.
well,
Uh,
that's just drops. Yeah.
yeah, I hate when my stomach drops. I hate that feeling. So for the longest time, I was just like scared of riding Splash Mountain. And so I never did it. But when we went this trip, number one, I've been trying to get out of my comfort zone a little bit more. So I rode Guardians when it first came out, and I was like, okay, this is like really intense. So if I can ride this ride, I can ride other rides that I haven't ridden before. So I've ridden Guardians, and I've ridden some other like Tron. I've ridden like bigger rides that I probably wouldn't have before. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna ride Tiana's. I can do it. My mom was with me. My mom is like my biggest hype person. She's like, if you do it, I'll do it. So we ended up riding it, and I lived to tell the tale. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's so fast that you don't really feel your stomach dropping.
Mhm.
And also, it was like 100 degrees outside, and
Oh, okay.
getting splashed felt great. So yeah, but because the drop is at the end and at the beginning, you kind of like go around outside
Mhm.
and you see the drop. It made me so anxious that I couldn't enjoy the rest of the ride because I was like hyping myself up the whole time, like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is so bad. This is going to be so bad. So I really want to go back now that I know what to expect, and be able to like ride it again and enjoy everything around me. But from what I remember seeing, it was really cute, and they did a really good job with like the theming. The animatronics are great. The music they incorporated was really good, and the drop was not that bad. So,
Well, it's the same track as the old one. Is that
yes,
correct? Yes. So when I started going with my kids, that you see the drop, and then you keep it has a couple of little smaller. And you think here it
yes,
cut? No, here it cut?
that's not
No.
it.
And then at the very end they take you straight up. And
Yeah,
if you don't go all the time, you don't really realize because you
right.
just feel your stomach a little bit of that getting ready to go. So well, if you can't really compare it to the other one, that's okay. But do they have beignets near there now? Is that
They do. So it's if you've been to Pecos Bill,
mhm,
which is like the little
the quick service
Tex-Mex,
Mexican? Yeah.
yeah. It's the little stand, like quick service stand that's across from that.
Hmm.
So if you go past Tiana's, and then Pecos Bill is on the left, it's the little outpost that's on the right. That's where they have the beignets. And there surprisingly wasn't a long line while we were there for the beignets. We didn't stop and get any because again, it was like 4 in the afternoon and 100 degrees. I
Yeah.
don't want to be eating dough that time of day.
No, no, that's rough.
But if it was, like cooler weather outside, I 100%, and probably later this year when I go, I'll probably, stop and grab some beignets. And I've heard they're really good.
That's we have friends that that was their thing before this was the Disney beignets, and I've never had one, but they always look. We see them on YouTube, and people are eating them, and
Yeah.
they just look so good. But you're right, summer is not beignet season, even if
Yeah.
you're in fake New Orleans. But people are really excited about Tiana's. But as we go towards Pecos Bill, I have something that I'm even more excited about. You also did you do the new Country Bears?
I did.
And how was that?
So that is my mom's favorite. She's a big
Mm-hmm.
show person. And so she was like really sad when she heard that there was going to be a retheming. And luckily she went with me on this trip. So we were there 2 days after it opened, I think. And I was kind of nervous both for her because of the nostalgia piece
Mm-hmm.
and then also just because it's iconic and I didn't want them to mess it up. But I will be totally honest, it was so good.
Oh,
They've
nice.
incorporated a lot of um, classic Disney songs into the show in like a country way, like still being true to the Country Bears.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have incorporated new country music that is, still harkening back to the typical Country Bear show that, we're all used to. So I was very pleased with the new show. And I love all of their new outfits. It's so cute. It really
Well,
is. They did a good job.
that's awesome to hear because I had never ridden that. I've probably been just 10 or so times in my life to Disney. I'm from Kentucky, and
Mhm.
so we're not real close, but we're not too far. But I had never been on it until 2 years ago, and I thought this is that Disney magic they talk about. Like
Mhm.
this is just the silliest, most
It's something
ridiculous thing.
else.
And you're around strangers, and me and my wife are clapping and hitting our knees, and my daughter looked like she was going to die. She
Yeah.
was so embarrassed, but I was disappointed. I didn't know. I'm glad there's new original songs. That's what you're saying. There's new.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good
Yep.
because that
Yeah, and honestly, the atmosphere is totally different because the old ride, it was so old, or not the ride, but the show, it was
Right.
so old that like some of the music you couldn't even hear well. You couldn't like understand what they were saying sometimes. And now, the sound is remastered so you can really like understand what they're saying better. You get the jokes. They've incorporated jokes into classic Disney music too, which is nice. And just like the characteristics of the Country Bears, I think fits in well with the music that they have redone. So in general, like I said, the atmosphere was just great, and the whole crowd got into it. Everybody was clapping, everybody was cheering, everybody was singing the music that we knew. Like it was a lot more fun than the previous show where like you might have three or four people that were clapping just because they love the Country Bears.
Right.
And then other people were like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people were treating it as an air conditioning break
Yes.
than an
Yes,
actual
for
event.
sure.
And that kind of, I didn't grow up with it because we never went as a child, but I was like, this deserves better. One of my favorites is a Goofy movie,
Hmm.
and they
Same.
go to
Love
it's
it.
wonderful. They go to that Lester's Possum Park, and
Yes,
it was starting to get that vibe of like this
for sure.
is really kind of falling apart and sad. So I'm glad to hear that they're really making one of my favorites back, and I can talk my daughter into going again the next time we go because it's
Yeah.
all new and she's never been. So
Yeah,
she
and
was
there will be music that like she knows because they have like music from like they have a whole new world from Aladdin and music from Tiana's. Like they've incorporated music that everybody knows, and then they have newer songs too that are original to the show, which is nice.
nice. She was very sad that Splash Mountain went away. That was one of her favorites. So
Mm,
I'm like, honey, it's kind of the same. It's you
yeah.
know, people said the story is not real tight, but I didn't realize there was too much of a story on the old one. To be honest, I'm that Disney person where I'm enjoying what's going on, and they start showing me
Same.
these details, and I said, oh, I didn't realize all this. Somebody spent a lot of time, and I feel bad that I missed out because that was not anything I had going on. So, all right. So you've been doing this just over a year, is that right?
Yeah, just hit my 1 year mark.
I saw you had your button celebrating that. So, um, what do you think about it after a year, or just are you just excited as you were when you started with the
Yeah.
planning? You that kind of
It's
personality of plan, plan,
Yeah,
plan.
it's honestly even more fun now because I have more followers and more people that I've gotten to know on like a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even like the number, it's just more people when you start out. Obviously, you only have a couple of people that maybe you're talking to now and then, but now that I have more followers, that means that I have more people I'm engaging with regularly, and that's really like the purpose of my account. I don't care about, having getting money
Right.
or having, deals with companies or anything like that. I really do it because when I go to the parks, I want to have people that I'm meeting up with and I'm hanging out with, and I want to have people that I'm able to talk to day to day, and like create relationships with. And so that's what I enjoy the most about it. And obviously, I like making posts and, doing reels and stuff, but that's ultimately so that I can create these long-lasting relationships with people, from them coming back over and over again and seeing my videos.
Well, that's awesome because, so like I said, I do like video and podcasting stuff for people professionally. That's my job. So I think people too often they miss out. It's social media, but people aren't social on there. Like
Right.
they get into these things, they start posting these, and then they're looking for that number to go up because then they start to, well, we could start pitching our
Hmm.
sales, whatever we're doing. We can have ads, and then but they're never like they're not interacting with the people who are commenting. They're not meeting new people. They're just getting followers and moving on. And it's this Disney podcast or Disney account is the one that I really like because that is the one that's very positive and people are always real encouraging and
Yep.
you can chat back and forth. It's pretty nice. So the Disney Instagram community at least is very positive. So
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
glad that you're not a jerk. That's nice. I knew it was a good
I try not
a
to be.
good now, I also saw on there. So all of my notes basically are things that I've seen on your Instagram, which, like I said,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, she's the best. So Dapper Day,
Yes.
you have not been to that yet, but you're going.
No. Yeah. So that just happened. It was like a coincidental situation. I
Mm-hmm.
actually had talked with a friend of mine earlier this year about wanting to do Dapper Day. And I was like, it's never, it never works out while I'm there, and it takes a lot of planning and all this stuff. And then a friend of mine, you may know her, Park Hop Whitney, her
I
name,
follow her.
that's
Yes.
her Instagram handle. We just randomly decided to plan a Christmas trip together because I haven't been down for Christmas in like 4 years. So we planned a Christmas trip, and I was like, I know they do Dapper Day in December sometimes. Let me just look and see what the dates are. And so I looked at the dates, and it happened to be while we were down there, number one, and number two, we're also doing Jollywood Nights, which has like a similar feel to Dapper Day. Everybody kind of dresses up old Hollywood style.
Hmm.
And it happens to be on the same day as Jollywood Nights. And the Dapper Day part for that day is in Hollywood Studios. So we're already going to be going to Hollywood Studios for Jollywood Nights, and then Dapper Day is going to be in Hollywood Studios. So I was like, this just worked out perfectly. So yeah, her and I are going to do Dapper Day and then just kind of hang out for Jollywood Nights that day.
And you're full on fancy outfits,
Full on.
going crazy. That's awesome. That's
And if I'm going to do it, it's going to be in December because I'm not doing it in like May when
oh
it's 95 degrees
no,
outside.
I sometimes we see these people, and my wife's a teacher, so it's been few and far between when we don't get to go just in the summer. And I
Yeah,
see people there just dressed, and not even like always big clothes, but just I'm a, people dressed fancy or like in heels or something, like they're on a day. And
not
I'm like,
me.
what are you doing? It's 100 degrees. You're walking 20,000 steps. You can't.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't know how they do it.
it's people are crazy. I don't understand.
Yeah.
But that I've always wanted to be more of a dresser up, or we're more of just like the fun t-shirt group than t-shirts online, not t-shirts in the park,
Yeah.
because there's a lot
Yeah, for sure.
cheaper options
That I mean,
online. So
that's all I do. Well, and I even this last trip, my mom and I were in one of the shops and I saw something I liked. But my mom was like, "Why didn't you get it?" And I said, "If I'm going to spend, 30, $40 on a shirt, I'd rather give that to a small business, like one of my friends that owns a small business or just a small business owner, than to give that to Disney, a big
right,
corporation." Because like I like their shirts sometimes, but I can get a much cooler shirt from a person that I know and can have a conversation with for the same price.
yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
or even, I don't even mind spending $10, $15 more to give my money to somebody that, I know that I'm going to have a conversation with, versus giving it to Disney that makes plenty of money on their own.
It's okay, Disney. She's still selling plenty of vacations for you. Don't
I
you don't
love
have to come
Disney.
don't come after her.
They get plenty of my money.
Oh yeah. Well, we will talk about that in just a second. So the girl that I started this podcast with years ago, that was something that we talked about, the Disney flu that we called it, when
Hmm.
you go there and this shirt, I could, I'd wear this all the time, $75 for one, like a shirt or a jacket, and you get home and
Hmm.
oh no, why did this was not a choice I would make if I saw it in a store, but
Right.
you're there and you're in the moment, and you go home and you get that regret, and you
Yep.
come out of the bubble and you start seeing things the way they really are.
I
So
I try to, if I'm there for a couple of days and I see something I want, I try to give myself until the end of the trip. And if I still want it, then I'll
yeah,
go back and buy it. Unless it's Star Wars stuff, and then I'm typically more, uh,
well,
what's the word I'm looking for? Spontaneous, and I'll
hey,
and I'll just buy it.
well, I'm getting ready to get into some Star Wars stuff with you, because
Oh yeah.
that's a big thing that I saw for you. But I would like to ask you, did you get married at Disney?
Yeah. Well, yes, technically.
Oh, okay.
So we are a COVID couple.
Okay.
We got married in 2020 at the courthouse,
Hmm.
but never had our like wedding ceremony. So we had our officially had our wedding ceremony at Disney in January this year.
Oh, well, that's awesome. So the
Yeah.
opposite of COVID is,
Yes.
yes, Disney. So that's, yeah.
Yes.
That I saw pictures on there. And I thought, oh, this is. I've never met anybody that's actually had their wedding there. So how was that? Is that
It
just?
was incredible. So we initially were going to have our wedding at Disney in 2020 and then obviously
Oh,
had to
oh
cancel,
no.
and we postponed it two times. Um, but it got to the point where we could have had it, but there were some stipulations where they were like, everybody, like you guys wouldn't have to wear masks, but everybody else would. And like my dad was going to walk me down the aisle and he was going to have to wear a mask. And I was like, I just don't want, to have all of our pictures, everybody to be in masks, even if we
Yeah.
don't have to wear them. So we finally were like, we're just going to put everything on pause and we'll plan it again when this all like finally clears up for real. Like we're not stressed about having to make all these adjustments. And so we were going to do it for our 5 year anniversary. So 2025. And my mom one day was like, why are you waiting?
Mhm.
Like you never know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to be with us in 2025. You don't know what your like health situation is going to be like. Why don't you just go ahead? Like, let's just do it. So we went ahead and started planning it early in 2023, 2022, 2023 for a 2024 wedding. And I think because we were already married, I wasn't as stressed out about things.
Mhm.
So I was like, whatever happens, happens. I was kind of like, go with the flow. So honestly, everything was perfect for me. If something small was off, I didn't really care because it was just kind of a party for us. It wasn't like an official wedding. We
Right.
didn't have a big bridal party. We didn't have a bridal party at all. It was just me and him. I think that also made things easier.
That sounds good to
And
me too. So,
yes, it was honestly perfect. And all of our guests had a really good time. And yeah, we had a welcome party at Animal Kingdom. We got married at the wedding pavilion, and then later that night we did a dessert party at Epcot, and we watched the Luminous fireworks.
I mean, that's hard to beat for a wedding.
It was
So,
great.
I mean, I used to do wedding photos and videos and stuff too, and that to me sounds like the best kind where you don't.
Yeah.
And I'm married and not having a wedding party, not having like a good
Oh
group
yeah.
of people like this. We don't need to involve these clowns. Just let's just get married and then
I didn't
you
have
know.
anybody else to worry about at all that
Oh,
day.
that sounds amazing.
It was
Oh,
perfect.
I'm a little jealous, but I'm not of the COVID wedding because that
Yeah,
or the COVID
that wasn't
breakup
ideal.
because yeah, people I know in the industry of that it was a rough year for all of
Hmm.
those people.
For
All their
sure.
income was just gone for
Yeah,
2 years, so it was a lot.
very
So
stressful.
all right, well, enough of that Disney stuff out of the way. So what? I need your help because
Yeah,
I need you to help me with Star Wars because
I got you.
I love it. Like I grew up with it, and like I said, I'm probably about 10 years older than you. I didn't have any of it in my childhood because I was very little when the last movies came out.
Hmm.
We had all those years of nothing, and you'd have the VHS tapes. I have in this rack of stuff. I have some of the original toys
Nice.
and things that I had, but then there was no Star Wars until I was in high school, and then those Star Wars were not my Star Wars,
Mm.
and I was very sad. And I don't know if your generation looks at those better,
Yeah,
the one, two, and three, but
yeah,
I was of that generation where it was heartbreaking when those
I
came
get it.
out, and I have not been able to get into it anymore. The new stuff, and it's my kids are so tired of hearing it. But I tell them that same story. I'm like, these first three, so amazing. The next two, the third one I thought was really good,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
definitely
these last
it's
three have
definitely one of
not
the
been
best.
bad. But man, there's just so much Star Wars content, and what am I missing? Like what? Because you seem to still really really be into it. So
I'll tell you
help me out
exactly
here.
what you're missing.
Okay,
Have you watched anything aside from the movies?
okay. I watched the first season of The Mandalorian,
Okay.
and honestly, I didn't love it. And
Okay,
boy,
that's fine.
I get a lot of crap from everybody for
That's
that.
okay.
Once once Bill Burr showed up, because I
Uh-huh.
love Bill Burr, but I'm like these you can't have like guest star like it's weird for
Yeah.
me to see these people. It's same thing. He was in Breaking Bad. And I'm like these people are not. It's weird to have people that I know start showing up and then doing things. And then I was a big Boba Fett person as a child, and
Hmm.
that show I couldn't get into.
Hmm.
I watched a couple episodes of that, and no, what is happening? What's wrong with me? And people would start telling me about it. What I've seen of what's the one with it's a spy. There's no Jedi.
Andor.
Yes, that one I was enjoying the most, but I
Hmm.
didn't feel real involved in it. I never finished it, but that's the one I had the most like, oh, this is fine. I could get into this. And then I've been trying to watch the Acolyte, and maybe it's just my age, but the girl playing the two different people, I'm like, oh, this is throwing me off real bad. Like,
Yeah.
you got to change something in the outfit. They've got to have
Yeah.
just put a hat on one of them. I just can't tell what's going on. So,
Yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you exactly what you're missing.
Okay.
And I tell everybody this, and it's what changed everything for me.
Okay.
So I d- I did not grow up on Star Wars. My family was not a Star Wars household. I did watch the um like one, two, and three. So the
Hmm.
second, technically the second trilogy.
Right.
I watched those in theaters when they came out. Because I was in like elementary, middle school when they
Mhm.
came out. And I was like in love with Hayden Christensen. I was like obsessed because of those movies. Um, and then it was basically the same for us. Like we got those three movies and then nothing for forever.
Mhm.
Um, I liked the original trilogy, but I think as somebody who didn't grow up with Star Wars, it was very confusing for me
Oh, yeah.
having seen the second three and then the first three having it, there was just like it was very complicated. It's a very complicated sci-fi series
Yes.
if you don't like understand everything as a hardcore fan does.
Hmm.
Which I get it. People get very confused and they just kind of give up on it. The thing that made everything click for me, and this did not happen until COVID, like I did not become a massive Star Wars fan until I had time during COVID to start watching things chronologically. And it was the Clone Wars animated series.
Oh, I've never seen it, but I know what you
I
speak of. But
I tell people all the time, if you have at least seen one through six, the
mhm.
movies, episode one through six, you can just watch those six movies and then go watch the Clone Wars animated series. And after watching Clone Wars, everything will click because it goes into a lot more detail about what's happening on the backside, things that, maybe they referenced here and there in the movies and they had so much more time in a show to go into in more in depth.
Mhm.
It talks about everything that leads up to Order 66 and you understand more like why that was so impactful because the Jedi like fought with the clones for so long. They were best friends basically. They were fighting side by side for all these years and went through all this stuff and then all of a sudden overnight they flipped on them. It's
Mhm.
like very much more intricate, the storylines. And then once you watch that and you understand that, all these other TV shows, at some point or another, the characters or the storylines are referencing back to Clone Wars.
Oh, hmm. Okay.
Like most of the characters that are in Mandalorian at some point have appeared in Clone Wars or Rebels. Rebels is another one. Like as soon as
Hmm.
you finish Clone Wars, watch Rebels. They're both excellent TV shows. And people are like, oh, they're animated. They're for kids. I'm not going to watch them. But they are honestly like peak Star Wars for me.
Okay. Now that's Disney Plus. Yes. Is it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I've had that recommended to me before, not for that reason, but people have said before, like, you really have to sit down and watch that. Like, it's a whole lot of TV. It's a whole lot to keep up with. And
It is a lot, but it is so worth it. Because then you'll, I think, appreciate more all of the characters that they have introduced now into these newer TV shows and not necessarily the newer movies. They don't reference back to the um to those TV shows as much because it's like a different time frame.
mhm.
But it will definitely help the original trilogy and the like episodes one through six. Everything will start to connect and make more sense.
Well, if you'd have told 10-year-old me that I would have all of this Star Wars content and that I wouldn't care a bit for it, I wouldn't believe you because like I was so into it. I saw that you were reading the books on Instagram and I was
Yeah.
like, that's when I was like, well, I need to talk to her because I mean, I have these novels from that I guess most of them aren't canon anymore. But that's when I decided I didn't like the Boba Fett one when they retconned my how he really survived the Sarlacc pit.
Oh
And
yeah.
that was my man, I was really into Star Wars at a point in my life, and I was like, this is amazing. Boba Fett lived because he could call his ship to come get him, and then they changed it up. And I was like, this is all right. You know what? I'm married now. I have to move on. I have children.
No, not at all. I
I
think
will.
my husband is like not into Disney, not into Star Wars, could care less about any of that stuff.
Well, he must really love you
So
then, because that's
we
that's
just,
really good.
we just don't talk about it.
That's really funny. Yeah, I don't think my wife is not a Star Wars person, but I'm not really anymore either. But she enjoys Disney World. I will say that our COVID Star Wars, we had a good one. My daughter had never seen it. She did not know who Darth Vader was, and so we started watching it from the start. And she was like, "When does he show up?" And I was like, "Oh,
You just wait.
you might have already seen him." And she's like, "What are these people?" And she was all in on that love story, and she was furious
Oh my
when he
gosh.
turned. And
I
mm,
that was like so we don't have kids, but I'm like if we ever have children, that is going to be like my like shining moment as a parent. It's going
yes,
to be to take my child through Star Wars.
it was the best joy of a father, just sitting here watching her go. She doesn't know. She thinks they're going to be together forever. Those two. Oh,
Mhm.
but then, that third one is really good. And then she dies of a broken heart, and my daughter was out. She was like, all of that, and she's just sad and dies. Come on. But uh, so I've also seen you're big on see all the Star Wars stuff. These Oreos, they look
Yeah,
amazing. You're going through these Oreos, and I can't have
they're
Oreos in the
delicious.
house because I work from home, and then there would just
Oh yeah.
be there'd be no
I feel that.
Oreos. Oh, but I see all that stuff on there. All of your Instagram just makes me want to get involved in this stuff again. Even you've got your lightsaber picture and all that. Oh, just this is so great. So I assume Batu was a big deal for you
Oh
when you
yeah.
got to go. That
Yeah. It I love Batu, but honestly, like the newer movies aren't they're not my favorite
mhm.
because I am such a like purist when it comes to like, the original storyline and like the original characters. I don't hate the new movies as much as some Star Wars fans do. I'm one of those people that's like, Star having any Star Wars content I appreciate, and I'm glad we just like have more Star Wars stuff to watch.
Mhm.
Um, but I do wish that we had some, I wish they had put some more things in there that would have appealed to
Yeah.
like the original trilogy and, the original six movies. But what I do love so much is how immersive all the cast members are. Like they speak to you in like a Star Wars language, like they all say bright suns and, you know, they are very immersive with their characters, quote unquote. And then I absolutely love going to Oga's Cantina. It's just so much fun. The energy in there is incredible. Um, and I highly recommend to anybody booking that at night at like 10 p.m. when the park closes and being able to just walk around Batu at night when nobody else is in there.
Mhm.
Because it's just a totally different feel than being there in like the middle of the day when it's so busy and everybody has this like, crazy energy because they're trying to get their rides or they're trying to go to, get a cold brew or whatever. Everybody's just like running around. It's such a cool energy to be there when it's dead quiet and you can just kind of listen to like the sounds that are playing over the speaker and there's nobody around you and you can take pictures or just take in the area. That is my absolute favorite part of being there.
Yeah. What about this? You like the milk, the green and the blue milk?
I actually don't like it.
Oh, I was surprised on how much I didn't hate it because I don't like to try new. I have a very toddler style palate.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I've got to give this a shot. And I was like, no, it's not really milky at all. It's more of
No,
a frosty kind of thing. And on a hot day, I was like, this will work.
it is good on a hot day.
It's
Yeah.
not my favorite, but it's. And then we've got all the Coke bottles that look like bombs, the
Mhm.
trash my daughter collects. She's like, we're going to
It's
get,
very immersive.
yeah, we really enjoyed that. Do you have is Rise, is that top of your list of, it's got a little drop in it.
I actually really like Rise.
Okay.
I wish that I could go back to the first time I rode that ride
Hmm.
just to like experience it for the first time again. Because now that I've ridden it so much, I I enjoy the ride and I still love it. But there's nothing like going in there the first time and seeing the AT-ATs and like just like being in there and feeling like you're on a ship for the first time. After you've ridden it, 50, 100 times, it kind of like that wears off a little bit and you don't
Hmm.
appreciate it as much. But I do love riding it with people who haven't ridden it before and like seeing their faces and hearing their like seeing their expressions and hearing their reactions to it is really cool.
I would say that might be my favorite. Well, maybe not my favorite, but it's the best ride, the
Mm.
best experience to
Yeah,
me
for
that
sure.
I've been on because I try to stay away from the point of view videos and stuff on YouTube when they put out something new. So I didn't know really anything about it, and I'm going to spoil it a little bit if you're listening or you're watching and you haven't seen it before. But when you're on the ship and you get boarded and taken, I didn't know any of that happened,
Hmm.
and oh, this is something. This is
Hmm.
a nice 20-minute pre-show or pre-ride dinner theater that you're walking through. It was really amazing, and then you walk into the room with the stormtroopers, and oh, this
So
is.
cool.
And I think that might be part of my problem. So it's weird hearing you say that with the one, two, and three trilogy, is that it's all computer screen,
Yeah.
and I like practical effects. And to walk into that and like that room with the AT-ATs, like you're there. They're
Yeah.
just they're in this room with you, and there's no faking it. They're not really shooting lasers and stuff at you, but it's not screens. It's amazing, and
Yeah.
you really can't take like you can't if you watch it online, you're not getting that scale,
Right.
and you get in that room, and it's mind blowing. But the most recent video I posted on Instagram was I had an embarrassing video of my one daughter, so I had to throw a little bit for my other daughter. She she was having some struggle times when we go to Disney because she's not a big walker, she's not a big whatever, but she really broke down on Rise when we get interrogated
Mm,
because she just wasn't quite old enough to realize what was going on.
mm,
And the guy was, I mean, he looked perplexed of what to do because he was interrogating us,
right.
and she just started falling apart. And another woman walked over and was like, hey. She was like, or the guy was saying, I'm interrogating the prisoners. And she's like, maybe go interrogate someone else. Like they didn't seem to know what to do because
Yeah.
she was having none of it, and we were trying to comfort her. But he was staying in character. For me, I thought, this is fine. She'll be fine. As
Hmm.
soon as this ride starts, she'll be fine. But
Yeah.
that part of it, they were doing such a good job that, she would have told him anything they wanted to hear. She was ready to give it up, all the information. So loose lips over there.
Yeah. I mean, they just started testing the single rider line recently,
I saw that.
and I did that last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they basically walked us in, like they walked us past all of the pre-show and just walked
Oh.
us like past the stormtrooper section into our own line.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Thank you." And the guy goes, why are you telling me thank you?" It's like, it's just a reflex at this point.
Right.
Like I just say thank you to everybody at Disney. And I literally just started laughing. I was like, I can't.
That's really funny. No, I like that they just put the meanest people in that ride. Like,
Yes.
put the grumpy guys in this uniform because that's what we need
They
more of
can
it.
like get it out of their system on that ride.
So you don't get any of the pre-show though with the single rider line.
No
Oh
pre-show,
man, that's the one
which
thing.
for me, I don't mind. I've seen it so many times. I
Oh
do
yeah.
like it, but I for me, if it's just me, I'd
Mhm.
rather just go ride the ride than
Yeah.
to spend, an hour trying to get onto the ride.
Yeah. I mean, so it's funny because I'm one of the cheapest people you'll ever talk to,
Mhm.
but with Disney, I'm like, I gotta get that lightning lane. It's fine, or whatever it's called now. Like whatever, we're paying. We're not waiting in this 3 hour line, or sometimes when that first opened and the people were in line for like 8 to 10 hours, and
I'm
I
tapping
mean,
out.
I went by myself in 2019. I had a work. There was something going on. I was working down there, and I said I'm going to go to eat. I want to call it MGM so bad, but that's not Hollywood Studios so bad.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm just going to walk around, and they were in their transition period, and Toy Story had just opened up, and the lines were
Oh, I
I
can't
spent,
imagine.
but they just had the wall up, and the Star Wars people were just taking pictures with. It's behind this wall. In
Hmm.
6 weeks, it's opening up, and I was like, these people are out of their mind. And then it opened up, and then those lines, I just could not. We stood in line when I'm I'm old enough that when Back to the Future came to Universal Studios,
Hmm.
we stood in line for 3 hours, like in 35 years ago or whatever for that. And to this day, I think my parents, like, I can't believe you all stood in line. No phones, no screens for like I don't know what I did for 3 hours to ride a ride. I mean, it was fun, but
Right.
like I wouldn't
Well,
stand
and
in
then
line
like
now.
when Hagrid's opened,
Oh
when the
man,
Hagrid's motorbike, and people for like weeks were waiting like 8 hours. Like that's literally all they did all day. They just waited in line and then they rode Hagrid's and then the day was over.
oh,
Like,
it's
why?
crazy, right? I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't have that kind of fandom for anything. I
No.
don't. And you're a
I
big
mean,
Star Wars person, but
I guess
you
if you're
would.
like a blogger and
Oh
that's
no.
like you like get paid to do that, then sure, I'll go stand in line. Maybe. I would just be so bored.
Oh, I, and people are real upset, and I don't know. I've not participated in the new system yet, but they were upset with the virtual queues. But I love the virtual queue. I think it's so great because if you get one, I guess I think maybe that's the beef with it that you just can't be sure you're going to get on it. But
Right.
the thought of just saying, "Well, I'll be back at 3 to ride this," sounds so much better than noon to 3 in line.
Right.
It just seems so much easier. I got to do Tron the last time I was there, and I was lucky enough to get in the first group of them. So just walked right at
I
the
love
park, right,
Tron.
and I said, "Here we go. This is, my whole day doesn't have to be around this time, but I didn't have to stand in line at all. It was amazing."
Hmm. I love it too because, like, well, it's different. I mean, I guess it's not super different now because with the new system, you can still pick a time. But I love for Tron specifically being able to pick, like, if you purchase a lightning lane, being able to pick like a nighttime
Hmm.
time. So you can pick like when it's going to be dark.
So
Because
you can
that
do that
ride,
now with the. Oh, that sounds nice.
you can
Okay.
still pick a time. Yeah. Um, even with the I mean, Tron isn't under multi-pass, but with the multi-pass system where you get to pick three rides or whatever, you can pick your time for those two now.
Hmm.
Um, but with Tron, I always pick like a 8 p.m. or whatever because I love riding that ride at night. It is the best at night.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I have not been at night to that, but it looks
Mhm.
that part of it.
It's
You know,
so cool.
we watched it get built for years, and we were
Hmm.
riding the monorail. One day, we're going to get to
Hmm.
ride this ride, and I went by myself again. I had another work thing, and I was like, I'm not, no family, right on, no complaints, nobody,
Yep.
to drag along with me. It was pretty great, but it was, it was still dark enough, I guess, in the morning where it looked cool.
Yeah,
It's another one of those that really did live up to the hype. It was a little bit short, if you ask
it
me.
is
Like
short.
if I would have waited hours, that's the kind of
Yeah,
thing that I'd be mad about. But I didn't wait a minute for it. You walk right on and
yeah.
60 second. I mean, it's the same as Rock and Roller Coaster. I feel like it's that same
Don't
kind of
ride that
like.
one.
It's just so you don't ride that one. Okay, well,
Because I know it goes upside down.
oh yeah, that's really funny. So, well, you probably that Star Wars does a lot for you, I guess, of the heavy lifting at Hollywood Studios because you probably don't do Tower of Terror.
I do not do
You
Tower
just
of Terror.
stay away from that street altogether.
I
You just
do, yeah, basically, unless I'm gonna get food if I want a churro.
my daughter when she was 4, she went for the first time and she rode Tower of Terror and she enjoyed it. But now she has since then changed completely and said no, never
Yeah,
again. And
I
I get it.
never.
Oh,
Even
don't say never.
my friend's like, but like you don't know, you might get 3 drops, and I'm like, but I might get six
That's not
drops.
helpful. Yeah, that's
Like, why would I want to do? Because the one time I go, I'm gonna get 6 drops. And here's the funniest part about Tower of Terror. I will often walk through the queue with my friends
mhm.
so that I'm
It's so
not
cool.
just sitting around. And I love the queue for Tower of Terror. But the irony of exiting early
Mhm.
is they take you down an elevator. So if you're exiting, your
That's really funny.
your friends go into the Tower of Terror elevator and you go down an actual elevator with one of the attendants who is dressed as like a Tower of Terror cast member and they make jokes.
Oh,
Like they are still in character, like they are working in the Tower of Terror.
to me, that would be
It's not
scarier
fun.
to do that.
It's not
Thinking,
fun.
oh, this is going to fall for sure. Now that I'm in it.
Yeah.
Well, we went the first year it opened. I went with my parents, and it was it was terrifying. And that was one of those 2 hour waits and a lot of sun, a lot of standing
Oh
there.
yeah.
And then the next year we went back. I think it was the very next year where they randomized it, and we didn't know because there was no internet and there was no we weren't
Hmm.
following the videos, the VHS tapes or anything. And we dropped halfway, and it threw us back up. And I thought my dad was going to have a heart attack, because we were stealing ourselves for because it's a good show. I mean, you've never been on it, but I love it. Just and it's probably just for the age that I went for the first time. It's very nostalgic, but
Right.
it's very interesting. And then they drop you, and I don't love a drop, but ironically, I'm like, okay, it's fine, just one drop. I opened the thing, and all right, it's over. And then what's happening? And we didn't know, and we went 3 or 4 times, and I mean, the panic in
I
our
would have died.
faces. We have like one of the things up here is when you could buy like the actual film photos that they took, and
Hmm.
my dad is gripping everything he has because we had no idea, and it's like, well, you got to buy that. That's
Right.
you think you're really going to pass away here. It was terrifying. So I understand if you don't like
Yeah.
drops, that might not be the one for you, but might be good content one day. But
I'll do a lot for content. That's not one of them.
yeah, like there's a lot of swearing. I really can't post much of this. So, well, I do like how open you are with. I mean, I could call it nerdiness for Star Wars because I feel the same way about. I mean, I wore just especially I have my Star Wars, what the inside of an AT-AT,
Oh, nice. I also have a
shirt.
Star Wars shirt on, but
Now,
this is like from the video game. This one's a deep cut.
which video game?
Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order.
Oh yeah, well there's a deep cut. Yeah, I was a
This
big.
one's this is the BD droid that Cal Kestis carries around with him.
And you know what? And you said that proudly. You didn't try to
I
hide that at
will
all. I love it.
I will never hide my love for Star Wars.
I was a big TIE fighter originally for PC and Dark Forces. I used to play that in high
Hmm.
school all the time. That was my jam. So you were probably into other maybe nerdy things that Disney does, which
Everything.
I will say growing up as a Disney person and all of my childhood, like I enjoyed Disney, but it was like, well, this is kind of sometimes it was like
Hmm.
Disney. But the other stuff I enjoyed was it's very nerdy. But now it's all now nerdy stuff is the cool stuff
The cool
because of
stuff,
Disney. I'm
yeah.
like, how did Disney, who was not cool when I was a kid, they bought all the nerdy stuff and now none of it's nerdy and not cool.
Right.
What has happened to this world? It's turned around. But you went to see Deadpool and Wolverine today.
I did.
How was that with no spoilers?
It was so good.
Oh,
I I would rank it in like definitely probably the best movie they've done since Endgame.
wow.
Um,
Okay.
I think a lot of people have said it's like second best to Endgame. I don't know that I would go that far. Um, but definitely like top five Marvel movies that they've done.
Wow.
And
Okay.
there's been a lot. There were a ton of really good and really unexpected cameos that even I didn't see coming that I obviously won't spoil.
Thank you.
But I would definitely recommend going and seeing it in theaters.
Well, I mean, my wife is not a big like I'd say overly vulgar R-rated kind of person, but she really enjoyed the first ones, and I was very surprised. And so she wants to see this
Yeah.
one. So
This one does have, I would say, more vulgarity
no,
than the first two, so just prep her for that.
no, nope, not saying a word about it. Just rolling in, and it's fine. I
It's
will.
just like the other ones.
So along the lines of, and I say the Phantom Menace was the one that kind of broke my heart for Star Wars, but the Wolverine with when Ryan Reynolds was Deadpool and he couldn't speak, that Wolverine movie, that
Mhm.
was almost the end of the Marvel or the pre-Marvel, the pre-Disney Marvel movies for me. That Wolverine movie was a travesty, and then
Mhm.
when he fought to come back to actually be Deadpool to speak, which is his whole deal,
Yeah,
which seems easy enough to say. Ryan Reynolds, it's very charming. Let the man speak.
right.
I mean, what a decision! But those movies have all been great so far. So
So good.
it looks amazing, and I do think along with the TV shows that Star Wars, Marvel is really getting to a saturation point. I thought. I think it was good. They just put the one out this year, and they made it a great
Agreed.
one.
Yeah,
But have you seen the trailer for the new Captain America?
I have.
What are your thoughts on that?
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, because that I'm getting excited again about it, and I don't
I
know
know.
because I didn't. I thought it was very strange that they went their a new Captain America was a brave choice for them to actually put these movies out with him in it, and part of me always just sees him as the bad guy from 8 Mile for some reason. But I really like that show. The what was
Yeah.
his show called? I can't think of it
Um,
because he had it was his other name.
Winter Soldier and the Falcon.
Yeah,
The Falcon and
Falcon and
Winter
the Winter
Soldier.
Soldier. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a really good show.
Yeah, it was
And
really that one was really well done.
I don't know if people who didn't see that are like, "Why? Who's this guy? Who's this
Yeah.
Captain?" They're going to do some of that work, but having Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk, I,
I
I love it.
I feel like I heard like I remember them saying he was coming on for this movie as the president, but I forgot about it until I saw the trailer and then I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's surprising." Because I don't know, like every time I see that Harrison Ford is doing something Disney, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, why is he still signing on for these projects? Because I always feel like when he does an interview, he's like not happy to be there.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, so I had two takes on him, and one is, I mean, well, when this movie came out, I was like, no matter what side you're on, Harrison Ford as the president, he's in his 80s, and he looks so much better than everybody that we had running in their 80s. I
For
was like,
real.
he's the same age as these people, but look at him. I mean,
For real.
he's looking good, and I'd vote for Harrison Ford. But
100%.
whenever he gives an interview, he's so grumpy.
Yeah.
And when I mean,
It
people
cracks me up.
they were asking him about is Han Solo going to be a Force ghost, and he's, what are you talking about? Did he just no nerds get
He
out of here? And I love it.
They just posted I don't know if you saw it, but they just posted an interview that they did with him at San Diego Comic Con, asking him about the Red Hulk, and they were like, "How did you get into character for Red Hulk or whatever?" And he was like, "You don't want to know," or like something like that, and he just walks off.
That's great. I love it. I mean, and he's Indiana Jones, he's Han Solo, he's all these people that everybody just loves
Iconic.
and follows, and he just doesn't want to have anything to do with any of them.
No,
It's so funny, and I mean,
I
even
love it.
are you an Indiana Jones person as well?
I
Those
Surprisingly, I actually do not like Indiana Jones.
oh well, it's a lot like Star Wars. Those first ones were
Yeah,
great,
it's like the
and
one franchise. I so Indiana Jones is the one thing that my it was like during my middle school not rebel against my parents, but like anything
mhm,
my parents loved, I didn't like.
mhm.
And my parents loved Indiana Jones when I was like in middle school. And
Yeah,
so because of that, I have just like always
I
disliked
get
it.
it. Well, I mean, it's of its era. Like it's
Hmm.
not. It's a little slow. It's a little. I mean, in the new one, I assume you didn't see the new one.
I did not.
It was very strange. I don't know how they thought it was going to be successful and make
Right.
the budget back because the budget was several $100 million.
Right.
But they de-aged him,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and then the girl that played it's his granddaughter, right? In the new one.
I think so. Yes, I believe something like that.
She was in one of my favorite shows, Flea,
Okay.
or Fleabag, sorry, Fleabag.
Okay.
Very good show. It's a comedy and
It's
it's
on
from,
Amazon.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And that show, they canceled it way too soon. I think it
Oh,
only had like 2 or 3 seasons, but she was so good in that show. And I was like, I almost want to watch it for her, but I'm just not going to do it.
I, it was definitely better than the one with Shia LaBeouf in it,
Oh, yeah.
but it was. I mean, they go back in time,
Hmm.
and I was like, the originals. It was just he was a history professor fighting Nazis, and you're like, I'm not really sure I believe any of this. But then it got to be aliens and
Right.
time traveling. Like,
It's like
hang
Fast
on.
and Furious.
Oh well, except the opposite because I like those movies now, and I hated that first one. But
I just feel like the newest one, like the storylines just get more and
oh
more
yeah,
outrageous. Like this would never happen. And the
so
original ones, I'm like, maybe.
you keep up with Do you watch the Fast movies
Oh
when they
yeah,
come out? Okay, so that
yeah. We
first
watched them
one
all in theaters.
I saw the first one at a drive-in, and I remember going, just I was laughing. I was like, this movie's bad. Like the action scenes are fine, but the acting, like they are
Oh yeah,
taking this far too serious, and
yeah.
they are not doing a good job at all. And then they kept making them, and they kept making them, and then The Rock showed up, and it's like, oh, they've given up. Like they really like. There's the one where he flexes and breaks his cast and
Oh yeah, yeah,
says,
yeah.
"Daddy's got to go to work." And I said, "All right, you know what? I will watch every one of these. I will never miss another." And now they're in space in a Fiero. And I'm like, this is
It's
just a.
like
You used to
they
be
like
chasing.
it's like they sit around a writer's room and they're like, "What what is the most outrageous thing you can possibly think of?" That's the idea we're
Yeah,
going with.
I said I think they have like the double edge, like the 2-way mirrors. And they just put
Yes.
a bunch of boys with cars and just different toys and whatever they do with them, they're like, we can make that happen. And
5-year-olds.
yeah, they're like, well, let's go. Like, well, they just threw that one to space. That we can do it. Well, that one he kicked a missile from a submarine. What? Okay, and I'm like, you just, but they're so good. Like, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're somehow they are really threading that needle of, it's terrible, but it's so enjoyable,
Yeah.
man. And I mean, that last one he saved the Vatican, but he blew up half of the town. I'm like, well, how many people died when this happened? And they just
You have Jason Momoa.
Oh, he
Like
was great.
you could have done so much. Sorry, you could have done so much with Jason Momoa.
I did
I
like
mean,
him in
and
that though.
he did great. He's obviously a phenomenal actor, but I was like, this is just like I don't know.
Do you know my takeaway from the last one was Jason Momoa knew how bad these movies are, but no one else in the cast understands. They're all taking it seriously, and he's
Yeah.
he's prancing with the
Yeah.
shirt open, and he's just like, this is he's having a
He's
blast.
just going as over the top as
Oh,
possible
he was having the best time, and every second of it, I loved it.
because he's like, it doesn't matter how bad this movie is. There, everybody's going to watch it.
Right.
Everybody is going to theaters, and I'm going to make my money off of this movie.
And I mean, if he lives, he'll be on their team next time somehow.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
John Cena's his brother. All the Jason Statham murdered a million people in one, and then he's on their team the next time. It doesn't.
Doesn't make
Man.
sense.
So, all right, I got a couple more things, but that's okay. No, this is I really see. I was right. I can pick.
Yep.
What do you think about Robert Downey Jr. in the new? What's going on there?
I did not see that coming.
But maybe for good reason. How does that even work?
I think it's just going to be a variant. He's going to be a Iron Man variant.
These people, they're variants. They're cop outs.
I think that's what's going to happen.
I mean, it's
got to be.
He was born to play that role. He took that mask off and did his Iron Man thing, and people stated ovation.
I mean, it's going to be great. Anything he does is great. I am very excited about it. I do kind of wish that they would have given it to somebody else because RDJ is like, he's not 20.
No.
And like, I don't know what their plans are. Like, if it's just going to be, this one movie, but like, I'm guessing not because that is a huge villain in the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
Well, like the Marvel comics. So I'm not seeing this as just being like a one and done. And so is he signing on for like 10 more years? I don't know. It's going to be kind of crazy. So I feel like they could have given, like, it would have been nice to give it to another actor, maybe even an unknown, like that could have been cool. But I'm obviously very excited for RDJ because he is going to kill the role.
But you see what happens when they give their big roles to kind of lesser known actors, and they have to recast them in the middle of rough stuff. And
they have to change their whole plan.
And that broke my heart because I thought that guy was a great actor.
He is such a good actor. I mean, he really like did not do himself any good by acting the way that he did.
No. And I mean, Robert Downey Jr. had those troubles, but he got him out of his system 30 years ago.
Right.
And this was like
pre-Marvel. Like he used Marvel as a vessel to like build back up his reputation.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like he's got a very interesting life story that should be told one day because he was a punchline of all the jokes. Like when I was in middle school and high school, like that was Robert Downey Jr. He's the drunk guy on
Hmm.
Simpsons they're making fun of, or he's the drug addict, and he's this guy now. He's the most popular man in movies. So it's very strange, but
Yeah, and
good
if
for
you
him.
haven't watched, have you ever seen My Next Guest with David Letterman?
No.
So he does these really good interviews with different celebrities on,
Okay.
I
It's
want
on
to say
Netflix,
it's
I think.
on Netflix. That's what I was about to
I've
say.
not watched it, but I'm
It's
aware.
very well done. Obviously, David Letterman's a very good interviewer. But he did an episode with Robert Downey Jr. at his home.
Oh,
It's very cool. Like he lives on a farm. They have like farm animals everywhere. But it was a very well done interview. I would highly recommend
okay.
watching that
I'll check that
for
out
sure.
because it is. He kind of like Tony Stark in real life, that
Yeah,
swagger and that, yeah. You
yeah,
kind
for
of get
sure.
that feeling when you watch him
Yeah.
on, you're like, well, this guy's not acting. This guy's
But
just,
it's also funny because like he lives on a farm and they're like walking around like talking about his goats and I think he had like I don't remember if it was him. I don't know. Anyway, he has like all these like random animals and they're like just walking around his farm like
oh, that's amazing.
feeding the pigs or whatever. It's like too it's very Tony Stark.
That, I mean, listen, if you were making hundreds of millions of dollars like he's paid in these residuals from these movies, you do whatever you want. That's good.
Yep,
He could be doing a lot worse things with it. So,
for sure.
all right. Well, there's two more things. One, along to one of my other nerdy passions, but I didn't even know this was a thing. You went to see the Back to the Future musical.
Yes.
What is that about? Because I didn't know it was a deal, but those are some of my
Yeah.
favorites. Those movies.
So in Charlotte, we have a theater called the Blumenthal, and the president of the Blumenthal, and I guess just the theater in general, like the board, they are backers for a lot of new musicals on Broadway a lot of times. And so Back to the Future started last year, and the Blumenthal backed that musical. So they like financially put money in for that musical. And so what happens is if they back a new musical on Broadway, we are usually one of the first cities that they come to if they tour. So if
Oh, that's
they're
awesome.
successful on Broadway and they tour the US after, they'll usually come to Charlotte as like one of the first stops. So the past couple of years, we've gotten a few good musicals from that. Like Moulin Rouge being one of them, I think. I think they were a backer for that one. But we got Back to the Future because of it. And it was the music itself was not as good as I was hoping. I will say that, but it is really cool because they have like a full-size DeLorean that
Mm-hmm.
they get in and the vehicle moves and flies on stage during the musical. So like the special effects for that musical are insane and they have so many sets for a touring show.
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen like my mom and I go to musicals all the time. I have never seen a touring show with that many set changes. It was insane.
I went to their website to see where it was, if it was coming anywhere around here, and the only song I was hearing was the Huey Lewis song, just a cover version of that. But the play itself, it looked insane. It would look like the
Yeah,
movie, but just
it
on a.
basically is.
I
Like
don't
the
even
storyline is the
understand.
same.
I was trying to figure out how they even do that on a stage and make it into anything, but I was very much intrigued by that because I didn't know it was an actual play. So
Yeah, every time the car moved, the stage went dark. So like you don't see the mechanics or anything. You just see
mm-hmm.
a car moving. So like I don't know how they did it, but the actors get inside the car and the car moves on stage.
Hmm.
It was very cool. Like I've never
Yeah.
seen anything like it before.
Well, it was sadly it was not coming anywhere near me, but I was after
I
this is over, I'm getting on YouTube and looking into it.
Yeah, I think they had a limited tour to begin with, probably just to see how they do, and
Mm-hmm.
then they normally go on tour again. So I would just keep an eye out and see if they add more stops onto it.
Yeah, it was something I wouldn't mind checking out. And then the final thing is, now this started as a Disney based podcast, and this is, the original conception. Yes, that's the word, conception of it. And it slowly, it seems like when I talk to people, it also becomes a pro. And I think you're going to provide a counterpoint, but a pro Buc-ee's podcast. Somehow that works its way in there
Oh,
because I'm from the Midwest, and I saw you. I've never seen an anti Buc-ee's post on social media, and I was very much intrigued. And I said, "All right, we got to hear the other side of it."
the
So,
antithesis.
and I think I get it
Ugh.
because what you posted, I've definitely heard, but people aren't brave enough to say it out loud. So,
Oh,
what?
and when I said it, people came out the woodworks supporting my stance.
Oh,
So
oh, oh!
I was
The
shocked.
woodworks on that side. Okay, they're
I didn't
just
have anybody come at me and tell me they felt the opposite. Most people came back and said, I totally agree with you.
so. What was your hot take on Buc-ee's?
Buc-ee's is very overstimulating for me. Every time I go in there, it is like I feel like I'm at Walmart on Black Friday. Like that. It is like it's like I'm back in like and this is I am gonna say this as gently and un what's the word I'm looking for? As gently and nicely as possible, and I don't mean any offense by this. It is like I'm back in rural South Carolina with all the people I don't want to see from back home, going ham on some jerky. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it is. Yeah, it's definitely it's a whole vibe depending on how you feel about it. And that
it is
was
a vibe, that is for sure.
so I'm in Louisville. So whenever we would travel to Disney, we've always been drivers just because it's not too difficult of a trip to make. But anytime we go to Florida or anywhere, we're drivers. But we Buc-ee's has just sprung up. It seems like in the last 10 years is like a force to reckon with south of here. So we
It's
had
something
not
else.
been ever. And then 2022, we went to Disney, and it was our first. I mean, we left. I mean, and if you're a long time listener, you've heard the story before several times, I'm sure. But the first time we left the house in years because COVID shut everything down.
Right.
You're looking at your neighbor a little leery, like
Right.
stay back, and you got your mask on, and we're heading south. We we hear all these people. We see them on social media, and they're taking pictures with the beaver. They're having just the best time. We're like, well, we're going to check it out. And I tell you, spring break, shoulder to shoulder, after not being in a room with more than 10 people in 2 years, it was like your Disney warm up.
Yeah.
It was like, I mean, this is what we're headed to, but now we're all enclosed in this building. And the next year we took people, we went to Disney with some of our friends, and they went for the first time, and they said, never again. We were very much on your side of it as, no, this is madness. And what I, what I told them, and what we've come to find out is if you go during the week, it's not bad. And
Yeah. And a friend of mine did, she said, I will go like early in the morning
mhm,
or like late at night, but I will not go in the middle of the day, which makes sense. Like it's probably like any other gas station at those times of the day.
and
And we were
heaven,
there at like, 4 in the afternoon.
and heaven help you, we happened to pass one on a Sunday afternoon, and it was like everybody in that part of the city had gone there like after church. Like that was their,
Yeah. That's like their lunch.
I've never seen such a, we said, we're not even getting off the highway. Once you see like the line of people pulling off to the high, like the exit ramp, no, but I mean, the bathrooms are very
What?
clean. The food is very good. But if you catch it on a day like that, it's, and I mean, I was there last week, and it
Mhm.
wasn't bad because we just got back from our Florida and from our Florida vacation. And, that was our halfway point, and we stopped. We used a clean bathroom. We got delicious snacks, and we headed out. But it's very, I think I'm a lot like you because that first time it was like, oh, there's too much noise. I'm losing my children.
Mhm.
Thank goodness my wife is there because the women's bathroom, and for you, it's probably way
Yeah.
worse because it's like being at a concert. It's backed around the corner. People are cutting in line.
Mhm.
This is the audacity of these
No,
people, of adults,
no self-awareness.
and the men are just, marching in
Right.
and marching out and tipping their hat to all these women who are just waiting 45 minutes for, a restroom. But it's a lot, but I've never seen someone brave enough to speak out against them online. So congratulations. I hope you don't get canceled for that because it was, I mean, it's a take I have heard,
Uh-huh.
No, I don't like Buc-ee's. We're never going back. But I'm like, yeah, I'll just watch out,
I
look
am
around
who
before
I
you say
am.
things. Yeah,
And if people don't like it,
that's right. That's
they can unfollow me.
the hill that you will die on. That's good. I thought, oh, she's put it out there too. So very brave in your story, not in your feed though. So it's
That's right.
disappearing after
Yes,
24 hours. So
that's right.
I have the receipts.
There's
I
no
took a
evidence.
screen grab just so.
That's fine. You can take a screen grab, but other than that, there's no evidence. So
No, I wanted to bring it up just because, yeah, it seems like every episode turns into people going, oh, yeah, love it. Love it. We drive there, hit it every time. And then it's
not
good to
this
hear
chick.
the other side. Yeah, you're not, I mean, and you're not wrong. Like I said, our friends that we went with, they, I mean, I'm not a tall person, but their family's just a little bit shorter
Mhm.
and just completely lost. Like,
Yeah.
that crowd of people, they're in it and then they're just gone. Like, oh no, we can't
Yeah.
see you. We don't know where you went. Put somebody up, like hold one of your children up. We've lost the whole crew. So
Yeah.
I get it.
It's also
Well,
just like the most random stuff. Like,
oh,
I don't
it's
need to buy a front door sign and barbecue.
it's a Cracker Barrel and a
Yes.
Hobby Lobby and a truck stop and a barbecue joint all in, and
Right.
it doesn't make a bit of sense, but
It doesn't.
they're doing something right because they have got the biggest following.
For
I think
real.
I think it's the bathrooms and that there's like 100 gas stations or
Yeah.
100 gas pumps. And it's like, well, what
And
else?
most of the time you still can't get a spot to
Oh
get
no,
gas. You're
yeah.
still having to wait.
Half of my family, the last time we went, we were in two different cars, and the other half said, "No, we're not going to get in that mess to get gas." And I was like, "But I'm making us." My kids kind of didn't like it at first, and I was like, "We're going ironically," and I'm like, "I kind of
Uh-huh.
like it just because." For me, anyway, I'm like, it's a clean bathroom. And they're
Yeah.
few and far between on the road, but the other side of my family said, "No, there's no way we'll ever go back here. We're
Yeah.
pulling right past to whatever's next." But well, I want to tell you, this has been great. Uh,
Yeah. It's been fun.
it has been a wonderful chat. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can people reach out if they want to talk to you? And you should definitely follow her on Instagram. She's not afraid to speak her mind on the hot topics. But
I'm not uh I have opinions, but I'm
yeah,
not angry about my opinions.
yeah. She said, think what you want about Buc-ee's. It's a free country. Do what you want, but
It is.
she's not going to hide behind it. So
No, and I
where,
will
where
not be friends with you if you have a different opinion. No, I'm at Ginsburg Getaways, GINZBURG Getaways, on Instagram and TikTok. And then on Facebook, I am just Melanie Ginsburg, and my travel agent page is
okay.
linked there.
I will put it all in the notes in the description so people can reach out and hopefully plan a great trip. And if you want some anywhere, you said North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you want somebody online to do it, or if you want somebody locally, she's pretty great. And especially if you're a big Star Wars person or any kind of, Marvel, whatever. I really enjoy
I
talking
love it
about
all.
it. It's great. Yeah. And you have been a pleasure to speak with. And thank you so much
Thank
for
you, you
coming
too.
on. And
Yeah.
well, that's it. Have a
It
great,
was
big, beautiful tomorrow. So
you too. It was
all right.
nice to meet you.
You too.
Bye.